I would say it's monetization. Um, they've they've taken a spiritual, an eternal doctrine, and they've made it a carnal, monetized doctrine, and we're all the poorer for it. So my argument is we have more churches and more pastors per capita than almost any other country on earth. And at the same time, we have more poor people per capita than, according to worldpoverty.io, we have the largest number of poor people. According to the recent IMF statistics that just came out, we're getting poorer every day. It's not adding up. 51% of Nigeria's population is Christian. If they're practicing this doctrine, we shouldn't be getting poorer. The figures are working against us. We are impoverished. We are not developing. I was driving past a church the other day. Next to the church, a very big cathedral in Lekki, not far from Ikate, Owando. There used to be a workshop for, I think, one of these car dealers. This was a factory, more or less, where people go to work. And you've bought it over to do what? To make it a car park for the church? That's so retrogressive. I believe Nigeria's biggest problem lie in where should be Nigeria's greatest asset, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It's littered and polluted with churches where we should have factories. Right now, what are we producing? Singapore is a predominantly Buddhist nation. They got their independence in 1965, 5 years after we got our independence. And at the time they got their independence, they were faced with a housing crisis. They were faced with poverty. But instead of them building churches and sowing seeds to God and praying and fasting for 50 days like the ridiculousness you have here, what they did was they went after modernization, industrialization. They invested heavily in education. As early as 1990, they had become the most populous nation in Asia, aside Japan. This year, actually 2 weeks ago, the government declared a $7 billion surplus and shared $300, the equivalent of 100,000 naira, to every citizen in Singapore, 21 years and above. If you're looking for the solution to Nigeria's poverty crisis, it doesn't lie in the hands of God. God has given us natural resources. God has given us the land mass. Israel doesn't have land. Till tomorrow they are fighting with Palestine, the Palestinians. Every day there's a fight in Gaza for one small strip of land. Israel doesn't have water. We have water. We're blessed with human resources. We're blessed. In fact, we're so blessed that we do not have a single natural disaster. We do not have avalanches. We do not have mudslides. We don't have landslides. We don't have earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, bushfires. We don't have any of these. But what we're doing is we're ending up like Jacob. Jacob was so blessed because he was the grandson of Abraham. He was so blessed because the Bible said he wrestled with God and prevailed and made sure God blessed him. He was so blessed because he still took his brother Esau's blessing, but yet he was alive in his tent with his blessing, while the Lord was revealing himself to a pagan Pharaoh, telling a pagan Pharaoh what he was going to do for the next 14 years. Preparing Pharaoh, a pagan who worshipped Ra, the sun god, for a famine that was looming. At the end of the day, what happened? The blessed Jacob and his children had to come and beg for food in Egypt. The blessed Jacob and his children had to relocate eventually to Egypt. The blessed Jacob and his children eventually became slaves in Egypt. The blessed children of this blessed Jacob had to now look for Moses to come and redeem them when they could have redeemed themselves initially. Pharaoh had storehouses. He had everything that was required to put a nation together. All Jacob had was blessings. Nigeria, put those blessings aside. it's time to work.
Now let me get this perspective also. I mean, your critics, and you have quite a number of critics, even within the Christian communities. They've said that, I mean, if there is a problem with doctrinal teachings, then why don't we call for a reform of those doctrinal teachings? What's your